Good day and welcome to Predators Proclivity, where we look at the data for what it is from the season for the NHL Nashville Predators and make comments upon it. I'm your host, Preston Proctor. Well, so yesterday was Black Friday and Monday is Cyber Monday, so I'm assuming that today everybody is just chilling out. Anyway, happy day after Black Friday, people. Hope your Thanksgiving went well, and now we can just start moving on to the next Christmas holiday. Fortunately, I was out today, did not hear a lot of Christmas music. I guess I did in one store, but not overwhelming. I can't say I've been hearing a lot of it lately, which is great. They can wear you out by Thanksgiving on Christmas music. Anyhow, the Nashville Predators are playing tonight. They played last night, another disappointing loss in overtime, so that's 2 games in a row. We seem to be catching Philadelphia's bug for extra time games, except Philadelphia seems to be able to win them, and the Preds do not. 1-4 now in overtime games. But there you go. Tonight is another night. Another night and another team that the Preds have to be on their best behavior for. Moving on. Okay, so tonight the Predators are on the road to take on the Nashville Wild, the Minnesota Wild. Not every team plays in Nashville. The Minnesota Wild are 15-4-4. That's right, 15-4-4. That's a winning record. I guess I need to explain that for you Predator fans out there. That's what a winning record sounds like. At home, they are 5-3-1. So they've mostly played road games, it looks like. 5-3-1 isn't the best record, but it's a winning record too. I'll point that out. The Wild are second in the Central Division, which includes the Predators, with 34 points. They are 2 points behind Winnipeg with a game in hand. So even though Winnipeg has been on fire this year, Minnesota could tie them. And that's interesting. So they could. Wasn't looking at this, but Minnesota's played 23 games. The Jets 24. If they were tied at 36 points, Winnipeg would break the tie with wins. So they have 18 wins to Minnesota would have 16. Not trying to foreshadow their record tomorrow. I would like it to be the other way, but they are 15-4-4 overall, 5-3-1 at home, second in the Central Division. They started the season 1-2, winning their first game, losing 2, and those 2 were extra time as well, one a shootout and overtime. Since then, they've only had one other 2-loss streak, which was in this last week, last Saturday and Sunday versus Calgary and Winnipeg. Winnipeg was also the overtime loss earlier, so they've lost 2 games to Winnipeg already this year. They are 9-1 against the Eastern Conference and 6-3-4 in the West, 3-2-2 in the Central Division that Minnesota and Nashville are both in. Goaltender Philip Gustafsson has had the bulk of the work. He's played 17 games, 10-4-3. He's expected in goal tonight because the backup, Marc-Andre Fleury, was in goal last night in the win against Chicago. He's played in 5 games, 6 games now. He's 6-0-1. Their injury update, defenseman Jonas Brodin is out. Center Jakub Lauto out. Center Marat Kushnetdinov is back in the lineup. He had been out and no longer. Right wing Mats Zuccarello on injured reserve, and goalie Tony Grosnick on injured reserve. I don't recall seeing them in the statistics, so none of those that are out necessarily meaningful. Mats Zuccarello probably, if I remember correctly, one of their more important players last season. So I think he's a big loss for the team. You can tell because they're only 15-4-4. But I think they will be looking forward to him coming back. Transactions, the only transaction was that center Travis Boyd was moved from emergency recall to regular recall, whatever that means. And he had been recalled from the Iowa Wild. Now, I'm sorry, I usually like the AHL names. I think that's just a little too much. The Minnesota Wild and their AHL affiliate is the Iowa Wild. Well, yawn. Anyhow, their stat leaders, people to look out for, primarily left-wing Kirill Kaprizov. He leads the teams in goals, assists, points, plus and minus, and he's third in shooting percentage. At 20%, 14 on 69 in 22 games. So goals, assists, points, and plus minus, which makes sense. It did make sense the other day that the guy who led in goals, assists, and points was negative. But this guy has 36 points, and his plus minus is 17. So 19 goals more scored. Or I guess 19 goals scored while he's on the ice versus the 36 that he put in, plus, whatever his line mates did. So there's a lot of scoring going on when Kirill Kaprizov is on the ice. Defenseman Brock Faber leads in time on ice at 24-41. Defenseman Jake Middleton leads the team in plus minus at 17, so tied with Kaprizov. Left wing Matt Boldy leads the team in shots with 82. In shooting percentage, it's left wing Marcus Fognillo. And notice the stats were left wing. Maybe I should look at their schedule or their roster. It sounds like their roster, everybody's a left wing. I think the goaltender is listed as a left wing. No, 1, 2, 3, 4. They have five left wings on their roster, and all of them have a stat. Wait a minute. Who doesn't have a stat? We got Matt Brody, Marcus Foligno, who leads in shooting percentage, 26.7, 4 goals on 15 shots in 23 games. Marcus Johansson, he's the guy. He's the guy that doesn't have any stats. Kirill Kaprizov, number 97. I'll just give his number down so you can start thinking about that. And then Matt Boldy, Marcus Foligno, Matt Boldy is in there twice. Okay, so Luke Toporovsky is also not in the stat list, but there you go. He's from Davenport, Iowa, which I guess explains why. The other guys, well, that's not true. Matt Boldy is from Massachusetts. Johansson, Sweden, and Kaprizov, Russia. Anyhow, left wing Matt Boldy and defenseman Zach Bogosian lead the team in penalty minutes with only 17. Center Jakub Lako is last in plus minus at -3. I guess when you have a winning record, your lowest plus minus is not that bad. Tonight is Minnesota's 24th game of the year. Last year, they were 9-11-4. Last year, 15-4-4. So they are doing well better than they did last year. Their 24th game last season was a 0-2 loss at Vancouver. Tonight being their 10th home game. Last year, they were 3-4-3 at home. 5-3-1, so a little better at home, but mostly better overall. Their 10th home game was a 2-3 loss versus Colorado. And this year they're 5-3-1. Tonight's game is the second of a 3-game homestand. They also had a back-to-back last night, just like Nashville. They played Chicago, won, and then they will be playing Vancouver on Tuesday. Then they go on the road for 3 and Anaheim, LA, and Utah. They are currently on ice. It says 2, but I think I forgot to update this. I think it is now 3 with the win last night. No, it is 2. Hey, what do you know? It's nice when what I've written down is correct. Gotta love it. I started working on this yesterday and then, wanted to make sure I went through it today, which is good because there is some breaking news on the Nashville Predators front. Not the record. They are 7-12-5. 7-12-5, 2-6-3 on the road. They are still in 7th in the Central Division because they picked up a point last night and Chicago did not. They are 1 point ahead of Chicago, who does have more wins and a game in hand. So all it takes is just a overtime loss for Chicago, and they're back ahead of the Preds. Montreal is tied with the Preds, but has 2 games in hand and 1 more win. So even though the Preds are not in the basement, they technically will be, unless they turn this all around today. The Preds are 2-5-3 against the Eastern Conference, 5-7-2 versus the West. Hey, they are 4-1-1 versus the Central. You Central Division teams, we're there for you. So hopefully they'll show up again tonight, just like they did against Winnipeg. Now, just a couple of games. Oh, yeah. So back on Monday, the Wild lost to the Winnipeg Jets 4-1. And then just before, back on Saturday, the Preds beat Winnipeg 4-1. Ergo, the Preds beat Winnipeg. Winnipeg beat the Wild. So we should win tonight. Right? Isn't that how it works? Just chalk it up. Tonight is the 25th game of the year for the Nashville Predators. Last season, they were 13-12 in their first 25 games. They are 7-12-5. At least they got the same number of losses. Their 25th game was a 0-4 loss in Toronto. Tonight is the 12th road game. So the Preds are right now keeping it kind of even between road and home games, which is amazing. I guess they had a long road trip to kind of even things out. Not that I guess it matters, just kind of interesting. But tonight is the 12th road game. Last season, they were 5-7-0 in 12 road games, and so far they're 2-6-3. Their 12th game was a 3-2 overtime win versus Pittsburgh, so that's hopeful. An injury update, the defenseman Jeremy Lauzon is now listed as out, and right wing Michael McCarron is off injured reserve, but he's not shown in the lineup. So I think he might have been moved to long-term injured reserve, so he doesn't show up. I'm not exactly sure here. Transactions for the Preds. Defenseman Adam Wilsby was recalled from Milwaukee for the 4th transaction for him in 8 days. And he did play last night. He played last night. We had 2 people who have played. Last night was his first NHL game, and it was the second NHL game for another defenseman. And I'm not exactly sure why against Tampa Bay we had a lineup with 2 rather inexperienced in the NHL level defensemen, but it was a back-to-back situation. I don't think that it's hard to say in the end whether that mattered or not, but yeah, I mean, but they gave up a shorthanded goal. They gave up a shorthanded goal, and they probably should have given up more than one because they had a 3-on-1 short. The Tampa Bay had a 3-on-1 shorthanded opportunity, but the guy whiffed on the shot. Saros did play really well, and thank goodness, and that's the only thing that really kept the game close. The guys in front of him were trying to give him a good workout, especially the penalty in overtime. So it was 4-on-3. That in general, the Preds special teams have been good, but the overtime, the 3-on-3 is apparently not one of their specialties. And the 4-on-3 in overtime, was not. And that was the guy kind of the typical guy by himself next to the goaltender. At least this time he wasn't in front. Good pass. And you've got to say Tampa Bay got really lucky with one of their goals that the guy fumbled the pass and it was up in the air and he knocked it out of the air and into the goaltender, which now that after I started thinking about it, I wonder if they checked to see if that was shot in from above the net, in which case it would have been hidden with a high stick. It's tough to assume. Playing the puck with a high stick and shooting the puck with a high stick are two different levels. For those of you that don't know, playing, you're not allowed. If you play the puck and it's above your shoulder, that's considered playing the puck with a high stick. If you hit the puck when the puck is higher than the top of the goal, then that is playing the puck, shooting the puck with a high stick. And if you do that, then the goal does not count. You cannot shoot the puck when the puck is above the height of the goal. Maybe I should go back and look at that. You think Saros would have been the first one complaining about that? The goaltenders usually are. So defenseman Nick Blakenberg was also recalled from Milwaukee, and he played last night. Wilsby, this was his second game last night, so defenseman Adam Wilsby and defenseman Nick Blakenberg are recalled from Milwaukee and playing defense. I don't know if they played together. In a trade happened a couple days ago, I missed it. Forward Ryder Rolston was acquired from Chicago for future considerations. He's an AHL player, so I don't think that really mattered. But in the news that mattered today, goalie Scott Wedgwood, who I would expect to be playing tonight, was traded to Colorado for their backup, goaltender Justus Annunen, and a 6th-round 2025 pick. I do not expect Annunen to be in goal tonight since that trade just happened today. I assume, I don't know, where is Colorado? That's a good question. What Colorado, who are you, Colorado? Don't call me Colorado. Colorado was played Dallas. They were out Dallas last night. We are in Minnesota today. I assume Annunen. Annunen did play 2 days ago against Tampa, lost 8-2. He was in goal when they won against Philadelphia. He was in goal 2 games in a row. Friday, Monday, a 5-2 loss to Washington, 3-2 win against Philadelphia. He was in goal for a 6-3 win over Seattle. He had 4 games in a row, and he won them all. I would not expect him to be in goal tonight. I would hope that he be dressed and the backup, but he may not even be that. I'm not sure. I think it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure he can. If he does, he'll have his Colorado branded goalie mask on. I guess we'll see who is the backup. But I'm guessing Saros will be in goal again tonight. in the back-to-back situation, and it's not necessarily uncommon. And the goal yesterday, and the game yesterday was in the middle of the day, travel day, Minnesota. So, and they don't play again until Wednesday. I guess we'll see. Stat leaders, Forsberg leads the team in goals and shots, but he's no longer the point leader. That is now defenseman Roman Josi leads in assists and points. He's second in shots with 83. Time on ice leads with 25-35. Left wing Philip Forsberg leads goals with 9 and shots in 84. There's a tie in shooting percentage between center Gustav Nyquist and center Juuso Parssinen at 20%. Nyquist is 6 on 30 with 3 empty net goals in 24 games. Juuso Parssinen is 2 on 10, 2 goals on 10 shots in 13 games. Right wing Luke Evangelista has doubled his plus minus to 2. And so he leads the team at 2 in plus minus. Defenseman Nick Blankenberg and center Fedor Svechkov, both of those just started playing with the Preds this week, are at 1. And then center Colton Sissons is at the bottom with a minus 15. Right wing Michael McCarron leads the team in penalty minutes, 30, and he's going to be sitting there for a while since he's not playing. The Preds are starting a 4-game road trip tonight. They go to Toronto on Wednesday. Thursday, another back-to-back situation. Thursday, they'll be in Montreal, so they play today, and then they get 4 days off, 3 days off. And then they play a back-to-back. Yeehaw. So I'm guessing we will see Justice and Noonan in goal in one of those. And then Saturday, Ottawa. So that is what the Preds will be doing coming up. Preds stats on the road, they're 2-6-3. They lost their last game Monday, 2-5 at the Devils. First period, Forsberg scored the first goal. Then the Devils tied it around halfway. In the second period, it was all Devils, with Nico Hischier getting a hat trick, a natural hat trick, scoring 3 goals. The middle goal was an unassisted power play goal. A natural hat trick is if the goals all happen back to back. A non-natural hat trick, somebody scores in the middle of that. I think that only matters for your team too. So I think if you get 2 goals and the other team scores and then you score a third one, then you get a natural hat trick, but not 100% sure. So he got a natural hat trick all in the second period. And then in the third period, LaRue scored to make it 2-4, and then the Devils got an empty net with 3.5 minutes to go. So the Preds got the first goal. They tied 2 and lost 1. So far this year on the road, the Preds are 1-2-2 when getting the first goal. When not, 1-4-1. Neither of those records are encouraging. They are 3-8-1 when they do not get it, 5-4-3. At least they have a winning record when they get the first goal, but that's about it. Last year they were faring much better, being 9-6 when they got it, 4-6 when they did not, but they had a better record. Overall last year, it was about a 3.5 advantage for the Preds when they did get the first goal, but we are definitely not seeing that yet. And on the road, it was almost a 4-1 advantage. Again, not seeing that trend. I did notice the announcers last night were talking about that, but it is what it is. It's where it's at, you know. And I'm not sure overall for the league where the things are. But when you tie 2 periods, it doesn't sound too bad. Last year overall, they were 9-4. On the road, 6-1 when that happened. Last year in the first 25 games, it didn't happen much. They were 2-2, 1-1 on the road. And this year so far, they are 1-3. Bad news. Well, that's really stupid. They're 1-3 overall and 0-4 away. I definitely do not have that correct. But I'll believe the 1-3 part. Anyway, so tying two periods overall last year was not necessarily so bad. This year, it's not a very good harbinger because it looks like they lose the one. But this year, when they lose one overall, they're 3-4, which is not so bad. 1-3 on the road. Last year, through 25 games, they were 4-3 overall, 2-1 on the road, which is slightly better. And overall, losing one period last year, they were 14-8, 9-2 on the road. So on the road last year, if they only lost one period, pretty good news. So, but I guess when you've got a record like the Preds, there's not really good news with any of your stats. So there you go. Winning by period is the Preds this year are definitely starting to show what I believe the situation was last year in that they are bad in the second period, and this year they started off the season being bad in the first period because overall they were 1-6-7. And they've pulled that up to 7-6-11. So they now have a winning record in the first period. On the road, 2-3-6, close to 500, 5-3-5 at home. The second period, they're 7-13-4, which doesn't sound awful. 4-7-2. I think what the stat that goes along with that is that now. That they're outscored in the second period 18-29. So, the overall that they are 7-13-4 doesn't sound so bad, but being outscored by 11 goals in the second period starts to show the problems there. Overall, 9-10-5 in the third, which is not so bad. 3-4-4 on the road. So playing 500 in the third period. But if you've lost the game by the second period, what difference does it make? Which is the winning goal right now on the road is being scored 45% of the time by the opponents in the second period, which is very similar. Last year, 65% of the time, the opposition would score the winning goal when the Preds were on the road in the second period. So we're starting to see that statistic come back, along with the 0% in the first period, which is okay. But instead of scoring it in the first period, they're getting them all in the first and second. So, the fact that the Preds play 500 ball in the third period, if you're already losing, what's the big deal? Yay. We won the third period. Hey, we lost the game, but we won the third period. I guess it's better than not. Yeah, so I think that's enough of that of the winning goal percentages on the road. The Preds, when they win on the road, 40% in the first period, 40 in the second, and 20 in overtime. That's not percentages I expect to hold up in the long term. Not what I expect on a long term. I think. Sorry, that was last season. This season, when it's on the road, which I don't have, overall, 0-45, 27. I don't expect that to. I think last season's percentages are more reasonable. I don't know about the 65% in the second period when the Preds are on the road. For the opposition, I think the 40% sounds more reasonable, which is what the percentages are everywhere else. But there you go. Goal scoring has evened out in the first period. It's overall 17-17. Again, 18-29 in the second, 20-25 in the third. And that's leaving in the the empty net goals. When we take out the empty net goals, we have the total is 14-16 for the third period, so it's close. 20-25 comes down to 14-16, and that's overall again, mind you. On the road, the first period 5-8. 9-15 in the second, 6-10. Again, taking the empty net goals out on the road, it becomes 5-6. And then normalizing all of this, overall, the Preds are scoring 2.1 goals a game to the opposition's 2.8. Interesting when and this is at home, which who cares because the Preds are on the road. But at home, when the Preds win, the opposition has not scored in the first period. I don't expect that to continue. On the road, when the Preds win, they've been outscored by the opposition. But that is one situation where they are ahead 5-2 in the second. On the road, they're being outscored 9-15 in the second period. So 6 goals there. They are 5 goals behind at home. So the second period is looking like a problem. I wanted to come on the air and say the Preds really need to stop leaning on Forsberg and Josi so much. And I think that's probably got to be true in overtime because I think I know they're good players. I know it's a good line. I know all of that. I'm just looking at the overtime and I'm saying, they sent, was it against Tampa Bay? They sent out Forsberg and O'Reilly and Josi as the first threesome, and then they sent out Marcia Schultz and Stamkos and somebody else in the second. And then they sent out Forsberg and Josi again, and I just, and we lost. And they're good players and they take a lot of shots. I think I have to go back and look at this and see when, and that's one of the things I did mean to do. I did not necessarily mean to do it before this podcast, which means it's not a checkbox. It's something that I mean to do at some point. Is go back and take a look when the Preds did win. Where was Forsberg on the shot list? Where was Forsberg? Where was Josi? In one of the better seasons for the Preds, because I think it just feels to me like there's just leaning too much on those two guys. It feels like because they're taking so many shots. Now again, Josi got two goals in the second period against Tampa Bay. Great. So they shouldn't not shoot. I'm not saying they shouldn't shoot, but I think maybe they shouldn't shoot as much because I think there's one I think goaltenders can kind of get used to the fact that they know that Forsberg is going to shoot the puck, right? And so they can be ready for that. But if they don't shoot the puck, then it's it's an easy guess for the goaltender. Okay, Forsberg got the puck. I can. 65-70% sure he's going to shoot. And if the confidence was less, then the goaltender would have to be prepared for something else. And I think they can be prepared for the shot, and then that makes them, then they're ready for it. In which case, that puts the goaltender at the advantage. However, the other thing is if you take a lot of shots, and I think that this is one problem with taking so many shots, is that it's easier for the goaltender to get into the game and get into a rhythm, and then they can play, and then they can play a lot better. When goaltenders that don't see a lot of shots for quite a while into the game can be a little rusty. So it's always advantageous for the goaltender to see shots and to kind of get into the rhythm. And one of the things that happens if you take a lot of shots is you help the goaltender get into the rhythm, especially if the shots you're taking are shots they're going to expect you to take, right? The goaltenders most NHL goaltenders, if they see the puck and they see the guy in front of them, they know they're going to shoot the puck, they're going to make the stop. It's the goals happen by the goaltender not being in position and not being ready for the shot to come. And so, when you're in the regular 5-on-5, 4-on-4 situation, those are the regular opportunities that the goaltender can be in position and can know that the shot is coming and knows where it's going to go, and because otherwise they would be in net. And so I think, it's me behind a microphone. Again, I've never played hockey. I've talked to a buddy of mine, played minor league hockey and has relayed a number of stories. He did not play goaltender, but he had a lot of conversations with goaltenders to help him be a scorer because he was not. And, okay. So I stayed in Holiday Express last night. That doesn't make me an expert in any of this stuff, but they're doing something wrong. I mean, come on. Anybody listening to this, anybody watching the Preds, anybody calling the game knows the Preds are not playing up to their potential. That you can't say they are. If they are, that's sad, especially for those of us that have tickets. Anyhow, so there you go. Anyhow, tonight's matchup. Tonight is the first of 3 games versus the Wild and the first of 2 in Minnesota. They'll meet again on New Year's Eve in Minnesota and then play in Nashville the only time on January 18th. Last year, the teams alternated Nashville then Minnesota for 4 games. So they played 4 games, Nashville, Minnesota, Nashville, Minnesota. Nashville won the 2 middle games with Minnesota winning the first and last. The game that was 1-6, Minnesota win, then 3-2, Nashville win, then a 6-1 Nashville win, and then Minnesota won 3-4 in overtime in Minnesota. So that's what happened last year. And those 4 games, Nashville scored 3 goals in the third period of their 2 wins. So both of their wins, they got 3 goals in the third, which is really nice. Minnesota got 1 in both of those, got 1 goal in both of those games. And in all of the games, Minnesota did not score more than 1 goal in the third. So 3 of the games scored 1, and 1 of the games scored 0. Now, since they scored 1 goal in the games that the Preds won, so they obviously did not score in the third period of one of the games that they won, which is not what most people would conclude. But that was the overtime win by Minnesota. For the Preds, the Minnesota Wild, tonight's game is the second of a 3-game homestand. They are 1-0, having won versus Chicago last night. They are 6-2-2 in their last 10, and they are on a 2-game winning streak. The Preds, on the other hand, are starting a 4-game road trip. They are 3-4 in their last 10 and are on a 3-game losing streak. I am expecting Saros to play in goal tonight because Wedgwood has been traded away. And Gustafsson, it will be in goal for the Wild. The most active, dangerous player for the Wild is number 97, left wing Kirill Kaprizov. And as I mentioned, it sounds like there's just a lot of scoring that happens when he's on because he's got a plus-minus of 17 and points of, 36? So when he's on the ice, there's going to be scoring. So that's number 97, left wing Kirill Kaprizov for the Minnesota Wild. Anyhow, you guys have a great weekend. Good luck on Cyber Monday. The next game for the Preds will be Wednesday, so my next podcast will be then. Maybe by then I can take a look at my data and come up with something a little more interesting about how the Preds are playing. It'd be nice if they're on the road trip. We can get a few more games, get a little bit more statistically relevant information, and and hopefully get a few more wins. The Preds, wow, I don't want to write off the season, but oh goodness gracious, the Preds really have to Really have to turn it around. And they are going to start tonight. The Nashville Predators are in Minnesota to play the Wild. Thanks for listening. I am Preston Proctor, and you've been listening to Predators Proclivity.